Throughout the last couple of weeks, after having finished my playthrough of Fallout 4, I've been watching video essays about the game on YouTube. They mention all kinds of shortcomings the game has, from shoddy writing to weak combat and progression and problems with following the lore. However, I haven't seen a single video talk about what I, as a completionist, often consider the most important factor when deciding about buying a game. I am talking about achievements. The Steam page barely has any more information either, as someone within Bethesda came to the genius idea of making all achievements in the game hidden. This makes it impossible to judge whether the game has achievements which might make you refrain from buying the game entirely, such as unreasonable grind or tasks for multiplayer. Well, I bought the game nonetheless, completed it and made this video to talk about the achievements it offers. Fallout 4 was developed and published in 2015 by Bethesda, the same guys who made Skyrim, one of the most infamous titles in gaming history. While Fallout 4 did not quite achieve the cult following that the Elder Scrolls franchise enjoys, it is still enjoyed by thousands of people at any given time, which can likely be attributed to the easy modability of the game, meaning the time you can sink in it is only limited by your imagination. For hunting achievements, I went in raw and vanilla, to really see what the game has to offer. What greeted me was an ungodly amount of bugs, a horrendous UI system with an ugly map, stale gameplay mechanics, an overflow of useless Radiant quests and surprisingly, really good achievements. They hooked me from the beginning and kept my attention until the very end, alternating between progression and gameplay quite seamlessly.
Which reminds me, I've got another trouble spot for you to check out. Our scouts have found a promising spot for a new settlement.
When it comes to the main story, you will basically get achievements after every important quest. I felt like they were paced really well, as there was an achievement every hour or so throughout the campaign, which is a really good pace to set for an optimal feeling of reward while retaining meaning and a feeling of progression through achievements. When stepping away from story quests to do side activities, Fallout 4 offers achievements at a very similar pace to progressing the story, around an achievement an hour, if you know what you are going for, so there are no long stretches of next to no progression while playing the game. This might be the biggest compliment I have for the achievements in general. It is really difficult to make achievements flow in a steady pace in games, as it is almost impossible to balance progressions, milestones and discoveries in a way that would incentivize the player to engage with all the game's mechanics, without being overwhelmed by too many things happening at once or stunlocked by a difficult or grinding task that stops their feeling of progression for a while. I don't know if it is by accident or design, but the achievements of pick 50 locks, hack 50 terminals, kill 300 humans and kill 300 creatures fit the game so incredibly well because they all come to you at different stages of the game, as long as you acknowledge their existence and try to work towards their goals as you encounter new areas. Some of these achievements come relatively early, while some take you almost the whole game to complete, such as the complete 50 miscellaneous objectives. I found it such a pleasure to go for the achievements in this game, as there wasn't a single point in the game where I felt like I wasn't progressing at all, or that I was gaining too many achievements at once, as all the achievements were just difficult enough to achieve to maintain my attention and a healthy sense of pace. But going back to the quests, I do have some complaints with how the achievements are set up there. The game wants you to engage as much as possible with all the factions it offers through achievements, but that is incredibly hard to do in a regular playthrough. If you have no idea of how the story progresses, you will miss some of the story achievements, as the precise order for doing the faction quests while not locking yourself out of anything seem quite rigid and arbitrary. Following a guide is highly recommended for that reason. I think the far better option would have been to give the player achievements for joining each faction and an achievement for eventually choosing a side and locking other factions out of the ending. This would have given us ample time to learn about the factions and their ideals while keeping the ultimate choice a lot more authentic and personal. I am usually all for achievements making the player experience all sides of the story and available endings, but if the game has too many branching choices like Fallout 4, designing achievements like that just makes the story lose all impact for the player. I didn't feel like I was really making a choice for the future of the wasteland. I just felt like I was following a guide. And that sucks. While yes, this issue can be solved by just replaying the game, I do not feel like Fallout 4 offers enough variety for many consecutive playthroughs. Also, achievement hunters hate replaying. When I talk about gameplay achievements, I am usually referring to achievements that you have to earn outside the progression of the story, sometimes naturally through exploration or combat, but usually by pursuing them deliberately. I touched on some of the gameplay achievements in the previous category when I mentioned the Pick 50 Locks achievement and the like, but there are many more that the game offers. Some memorable gameplay achievements are to get blown up by a nuke or starting a ring fight between settlers in your colony. I would like to again say that these achievements are designed really well, as all of them require you to either explore the game's mechanics or do something fun that you probably wouldn't have thought of otherwise. There were some gameplay achievements, however, that I really did not enjoy. One was the DLC-related achievement to build all cages for catching animals available in your settlement. This achievement felt very out of place, as most base game achievements require you to just get acquainted with its mechanics. Nothing requires you to 100% a certain area. For example, you are required to read 20 magazines, not all of them, and craft 100 items, not complete every crafting recipe the game has to offer. This really made me regret not looting everything I could up to that point in the game, as I had to wait in front of stores for their wares to refresh, which felt abhorrent in terms of gameplay. I guess these achievements are the way they are due to Bethesda wanting you to engage with the DLC mechanics, which can otherwise honestly be skipped entirely, but what they add is just so frustrating to manage that these achievements really hold back the rest. The worst achievements by far, though, are the ones tied to the Nuka-Cola DLC. The one that pissed me off the worst was the one that requires you to capture 8 settlements in the base game map and assign them to a raider gang. I despised the fact that I had to play as a raider, as none of the factions provided were even remotely sympathetic or interesting, so I just felt like I was forced by the achievement to do something I really did not want to do. Helping the raiders in general just felt so wrong. There should have been a branching path in the DLC storyline to oppose them and capture the new area for a base game faction. As this is a fault of game design, not achievement design, I won't subtract any points for that specifically, but the achievement to capture settlements in the base world is just inexcusable. I felt like all my favorite companions would hate me for that, so it completely ruined any immersion I had started to feel in the game. But it's finally time to speak of the most puzzling aspect of Fallout 4 achievements for me, the fact that all of them are hidden. I honestly do not understand the reason for that, as what is the point of collecting achievements if you cannot see them? Most games hide just the story achievements, in order to not spoil you anything, but Fallout 4 hides everything, including tasks that you would never think to do by yourself, such as completing 12 Radiant quests for raiders or placing a grenade in someone's pocket. While Steam does allow you to see hidden quests now, their descriptions are still hidden, so that doesn't help much either. You pretty much require a guide in order to hunt for achievements, and that is a massive restriction for many completionists. I cannot emphasize how much of a letdown this is, as so far I have had quite little to complain about regarding Fallout 4's achievements. For such a massive game, I was really surprised to find out that Fallout 4 has little to no grinding achievements. You are not required to complete every single task of any category in the game. The achievements instead provide you with just enough experience with every activity that you might want to do it again if you really like it, otherwise you can safely move on without having to grind. There were only a few achievements that I had to go back to once everything else was complete, and even they weren't that bad. One of them was to kill enough enemies in one of the DLC areas, which was sort of annoying, as enemy spawns are semi-random in Fallout 4 as far as I was able to understand, but again the task amount itself is so low that I did not have time to really get frustrated with it. Another grinding achievement was the one that requires you to make 100,000 Nuka-Cola credit, which is admittedly something that you want to cheese in order to make it tolerable. I found a video from a guide on how to easily get that achievement. I will link both of them in the description. I recommend doing a little bit of this achievement once and then coming back later to finish it, otherwise it is a bit boring. Still, while this achievement was completely unnecessary, as honestly who even cares about this minigame, it is relatively tame when it comes to video game grind, so I didn't have much problems with it. There are some collectibles that you have to gather while you play the game. However, they won't be much of a problem because you will have to follow a guide anyway, as the achievements have no descriptions and the story achievements are really confusing. I really enjoyed the collectibles and getting them, as they are not just useless chunk or shoddy backstory, but actually provide relatively significant boosts to your character. There are no difficulty-related achievements in the game at all, so you can play on the lowest difficulty if you want. I don't take the absence of difficulty achievements either as a positive or a negative, as it ultimately comes down to personal preference. Some people love the extra challenge that achievements provide, as there is often little motivation to revisit a game on a higher difficulty otherwise. Meanwhile, some people hate it when achievements make you play on the highest difficulty, as it adds unnecessary frustration to the game. I am personally somewhere in the middle. I enjoy a challenge in games, but I hate games that make their highest difficulties unreasonably hard, such as Witcher 2. In Fallout 4, I started off with the normal difficulty, but when I realized how bullet spongy most enemies in the game are, I turned it down to easy. In fact, the lower difficulty massively increased my enjoyment of the game, as it greatly sped up the pace of combat and exploration, so I recommend it if you find yourself unhappy with Fallout 4. The achievement design of Fallout 4 is easily the best I have seen this far. Whether you like where the franchise is headed or not, you have to admit that it has so many iconic characters, slogans and world building that Bethesda knows how to use really well. The same applies to achievements. They stand out with their iconic Vault Boy character engaging in various fun activities related to the achievements. The titles are well done as well. They are humorous and fun, some even include puns. There is nothing negative I can say in regards to them. If you collect achievements to display them, Fallout 4 is a perfect game for it. Fallout 4 achievements were so close to greatness but fell off with a couple significant flaws. The biggest problem with them is that they are completely hidden. There is no reason why they should be like that, as the vast majority of the achievements do not contain any possible spoilers for the player. In fact, Fallout 4's story isn't even that amazing to warrant such a thorough blackout. Another aspect of Fallout 4's achievements, which can actually be observed in many games, is that their quality is not consistent throughout the game's lifecycle. The base game achievements are amazing and I loved pursuing them. The same applies for the Far Harbor DLC, but the ball was dropped hard on the Nuka World and the Cage Crafting DLCs. Some of the tasks they provide you are grinding, unlike the base game, or unpleasant to complete in other ways. While they aren't terrible achievements, they also aren't top tier. Keeping all that in mind, I think I will still give Fallout 4 an S tier. If the aforementioned flaws had been fixed, I would have had no problem putting the game in the highest tier, but these flaws do stick out very clearly when evaluating the game after completion. I hope you enjoyed the video. What is your opinion on Fallout 4? Do you agree or disagree with my review? What should I play next? Let me know in the comments. Bye.